us some money!
Anyone who's been on my channel a while knows I love Discord from Friendship is Magic. I came for the Star Trek reference, I stayed for the character itself. I've made several videos about the character that you can go back to watch to see why I love him so and why, as a character, he sticks with me. And if there was one thing that made me a little sad about the ending of Friendship is Magic, it's that it was very unlikely that I would ever see him again. Sure, we ended up getting him in Pony Life, which is cute, but as of right now it's still unclear if he'll make the jump to G5. I was honestly a little sad to think about a future media diet without him or characters like him. Well, it turns out that Dana Terrace is an all-knowing entity who heard my worries because not a few months after Friendship is Magic was wrapped up, the Owl House gave us Eda the Owl Lady, who, spoiler alert, is if Discord was a lesbian. She even has a fang on her right side, what more proof do you need? So, I'll be honest, whereas last video we talked about a potential problem with the show, this video is mostly just going to be me talking about how Eda is great and why we need more characters like her. Enjoy. So the first thing I ever saw of the Owl House was a teaser highlighting Eda, and already I was hooked. An older woman who kicks ass, tells a young girl not to trust men, and is cynical and snarky as all hell, and she's voiced by that one voice actress whose name I keep forgetting before the show burnt it into my brain? Absolutely, I will consume this content like air. And you know what? I did. Eda remains my absolute favorite character of the Owl House, a show that already has such an enjoyable main cast throughout. For real, the cast is so good, my entire last video was about how what is arguably the weakest link in the entire show only commits the sin of being just a little overhyped. Eda is a standout character amongst a cast I thoroughly enjoy. See, that doesn't usually happen for me. I usually cling to a property for the sake of one character that I decide for one reason or another to just adore. For Friendship is Magic, it was Discord, obviously. For my Sonic days, it was Shadow. Yes, I was that bitch growing up, fucking cram it. For Steven Universe, it was Jasper. For Warcraft, it was it was Grom Hellscream for a while, but then it turned out to be Sylvanas Windrunner. Funny how life works like that. I had a bad habit of picking my favorites out of characters that made scarce appearances and, more often than not, got screwed over by the creative team. This often got frustrating for me as those properties had other characters I couldn't muster the will to care about. With the Owl House, however, I don't have to worry about that. Not only is Eda part of the main cast, but she has some of the best character work this season. Learning more about her past while watching her trying to manage a worsening curse, stay one step ahead of the law that she rebels against, tending to her apprentice-turned-daughter Luz, all while trying to make a living? That's good shit, and it was the stuff I was most looking forward to seeing with every new episode. Some episodes had her dealing with her curse, some episodes dealt with her beef with the law, and some dealt with her helping nurture Luz's growth into a promising witch. All of these elements work because they don't overshadow one of the most important things about Eda. She cares. A lot. One could look at Eda's anti-establishment philosophy and side jobs scamming the people of the Boiling Isles by selling them human trash and interpret a very dickish burnout character from that, and probably try to poorly replicate it themselves. Probably give her a character arc about having to learn to care about stuff once Luz comes into her life, but Eda never had a problem giving a shit about anything. In the very first episode, she ropes Luz into a dangerous mission to sneak into a prison just to retrieve a paper crown for her power-hungry raccoon king.
Oh, look at us, Luz. King and I don't have much in this world, we only have each other. So if that dumb crown is important to him, it's important to me. Besides, us weirdos have to stick together, you know?
It all comes back to her heart of gold. Eda's individualist philosophy doesn't come from a generic fuck the system angle like so many performative revolutionaries. It comes from a genuine hatred of the Coven system, the power structure that limits a witch's potential to reside in one school of magic and one alone, save for a few elites. She sees it for what it truly is, an oppressive scam that only serves to ensure the Emperor is never challenged. And her beef is personal as well as philosophical, because the Coven system meant she could only learn one school of magic at Hexside, which she despised. Imagine that, a character who was considered a problem child at school because she wanted to learn everything, but wasn't allowed to. And she never stops wanting to learn. She regularly checks out books from the library to continue learning magic, even gets to learning about wild magic while training Luz. She may be a teacher, but she doesn't stop learning because she wants to learn, and she wants the freedom to be able to learn. One could look at Eda's business of scamming the people of Bonesboro into buying human trash and say that makes her a hypocrite. But even if it did, the scale is just too nebulous to compare. Besides, the human treasure thing is just a side gig. She has a perfectly viable business selling potions.
Snake oil.
No one wants an unoiled snake.
Magic Bow Wow.
But even if Ida's philosophy was shallow, she doesn't enforce it to the detriment of everyone else the way the Emperor does. Luz ends up wanting to learn more about Hexside and the Coven system, not as some blind resistance to Ida's teachings, but because she's very new to the Boiling Isles and wants to know all things magic, even if any of that knowledge is standardized. When it comes painfully clear to Ida that Luz will not wholeheartedly agree with her hatred of Hexside, she doesn't try to deny her student anything. Au contraire, she actually goes to Hexside to try and get Luz enrolled, and literally has to atone for everything on her permanent record to do it. She cares for Luz so much that she returned to a place of great personal baggage for her, and endured something she positively dreaded just to make her happy. And she's not going against her own code to do it because she trusts Luz to be smart enough not to fall for any blind teachings that teach her to just follow the rules. A trust that pays off when Luz sets off a series of events that allow students to learn more than one track of magic at school. On that note, let's just talk about Luz and Ida for a minute because they have such a good relationship. The way she gradually begins to care more and more for this human girl that just stumbled into her life to the point where she openly declares that Luz is the best thing to ever happen to her is just, oh, it's the good food! I mean, right off the bat, Ida has demonstrated a degree of responsibility for keeping Luz safe, but the fact that she gets more attached with each milestone in their student-mentor relationship is really what helps sells it. In The Intruder, she starts with just a basic Magic 101 course while kinda not giving a fuck what Luz takes away from it. By the time of Adventure in the Elements, however, she organizes a whole crash course specifically tailored to Luz's unique magic. In I Was a Teenage Abomination, she considered Luz's interest in Hexside to be a mark of failure for her as a teacher. In Something Ventured, Something Framed, she goes out of her way to get Luz into Hexside because she trusts Luz to trust her teachings and be her own witch. Over the course of the show, Ida goes from referring to Luz as her apprentice to just flat out saying that she's her kid. This show is just filled with soft familial moments between them and that are just perfect. The way it all culminates in Agony of a Witch, where Luz gets captured by Lilith and Ida literally gives it her all and succumbs to a fate much worse than death just to save her, is just the sad angsty cherry on top of this wholesome sundae. Actually no, it's the fudge drizzle. The actual cherry is how Luz fucking lays siege to the Conformatorium to bust Ida out, leading to their emotional moment and their quote final goodbye, where Luz just up and says that they're family. This found family shit is what I live for. All we need is for Ida to marry Luz's mom and it will be truly perfect. Also, I know this might be weird to say, but I'm so happy this kind of character arc is being given to a woman. In this day and age, it's hardly uncommon to get a story about a grizzled and cynical old man with a checkered past learning the importance of family through the help of a kid that they've been roped in to care for. So the fact that we get this kind of arc with an older woman, an already undervalued demographic that general audiences just expect to be maternal and nurturing by default, really sets it apart from its peers. It's one of the many things that makes Ida a better character than Lilith is a sister. I suppose I should talk about Lilith since her and Ida's stories are so intrinsically entwined. In a comment of my last video, someone suggested that I shouldn't consider Amity to be the weakest link of the Owl House, as that dishonor should go to Lilith after how her redemption arc was handled. That's a valid argument, and it's definitely worth considering. I mean, after all, Amity's redemption worked because her wrongdoings were rather small in scale. It was just the personal factor that gave them any weight. By contrast, the shit Lilith does is just fucking vile and nasty. She cursed Ida as a child just to secure her own place in the Emperor's Coven, calling it a sacrifice, even when it turns out that Ida would have just let her have it. She doesn't tell Ida the truth for years and instead hunts her down like a common criminal, trying to bring Ida into the Emperor's Coven by force, or just assuming that the worsening state of her curse will make Ida cave and come of her own free will. The fact that Lilith let the truth slip during a heated moment is something she views as a mistake. If she had it her way, Ida would have gone the rest of her life never knowing. She then proceeds to place Luz in mortal peril just to drain away Ida's magic and make her easier to capture. People were so quick to drop Lilith after this episode, which, one might argue, makes it all the stranger that they were so fast to pick her back up at the very next episode. With how many bad redemption stories we've gotten in recent years, you can simply look at the fact that Lilith was given the chance at redemption and just say it's another one for the pile. Alas, that's not really the case, as just like Amity, Lilith's arc is actually kind of okay. At the start of the finale, Lilith's redemption already has a much better structure than those we've been getting in recent years. Firstly, she's proactive in it all. It's not a matter of Luz talking Lilith down and all is forgiven. Lilith felt justified in all her heinous actions, until the Emperor tells her that he's not going to heal Ida's curse and instead petrify her. In that moment, Lilith realized that all her heinous shit has been for nothing, and takes steps to fix her mistakes. Even then, Luz or Ida never explicitly forgive her, and the rather open-ended way they leave that plot thread makes it look like Lilith's character arc is going to continue in the second season. If instead they make it so that Lilith is forgiven and all is supposedly well between them without any future work, then we can call it a bad redemption. Lilith's actions in the finale were a start, but they alone are not enough. Anyway, back to the better sister. The only notable thing left to talk about is her curse and how the show handles her curse. As soon as it's introduced, Ida's curse is treated exactly like a chronic illness, with regular symptoms, her need to take medicine for it, even touching on how capitalists can price gouge people like Ida who need their medicine. The symptoms even begin to worsen while the medicine is working less and less. And sure, after the finale, it seems as though Ida is no longer in danger of turning into the Owl Beast ever again, but now she can't naturally do magic, meaning she's disabled. This kind of thing can easily resonate with viewers who suffer from chronic illnesses and disability. What was gonna make or break the story was whether or not they were actually going to heal Ida's curse, and it doesn't look like they're going to be doing that. The worst of it seems to be past her now, but there are still hurdles for her to leap that aren't there for other witches. Some abled people might not understand why the idea of a cure would be such a bad idea for the story. Like, shouldn't people who suffer from those things be given hope that it all might end? I mean, of course they want hope. No one in their right mind would turn down an easy fix for their chronic condition. The problem is, there's no guarantee that such a thing like that will ever exist. There's no guarantee that someone will find a cure for fibromyalgia or cerebral palsy. You may as well tell someone to place their hopes on the lottery. The idea of giving people with disabilities or chronic illness hope by inventing a fictional cure for a fictional condition is a faulty one. A message that would resonate with these people is that life goes on, and if you have a strong support system full of people who love you, then you're going to be okay. You don't have to let your condition define you. And Ida's curse never defines her. It's just one of the things about her. Her disrespect of the law, her shady dealings, her genuine love for magic, her relationship with King and Luz, none of that is explicitly tied to the curse. They're all their own factors that help make up the wonderful character that is Ida. A proud individualist who has many problems to deal with, but caring was never one of those problems. She cares about her beliefs, she cares about the few people that are close to her, she cares about learning magic, and she cares about living freely. Also, this cannot be stated enough, but she kicks ass.
Spicy dog! Sleep spell! Say goodnight, sister.
We don't usually see maternal figures this versatile and nuanced in a Disney property. And that's why we need more characters like Ida, because there aren't more characters like Ida. I joked about her being a sapphic discord, but even that is extremely reductionist of me. Ida is, well, exactly as the show sells her as, one of a kind. Any other characters I could draw comparisons to would only have a few scant similarities. Some people think she's a mirror image of Grunkle Stan from Gravity Falls, but those comparisons are very surface level. Stanley Pines is a shifty scammer who struggled with school as a kid because he was considered a quote screw-up. Ida is a shifty scammer who struggled in school as a kid because of her genuine hatred for the restrictive system she was brought up in. Stanley has a tenuous relationship with his siblings because of external factors and accidents. Ida has a tenuous relationship with her siblings because Lilith cursed her. To say that Ida is just a gender-bent Stan, or Stan's ex-wife, fucking Christ, is just erasing what makes Ida such a good character. That, and I personally don't like it when people keep drawing parallels between this show and Gravity Falls. Yes, Dana Terrace is engaged to Alex Hirsch, and yes, he does voice work for the show, but her stuff deserves to stand on its own merits. We don't need a weirdness cinematic universe, guys. No, the only acceptable way to be reductionist towards Ida is to just melt into a pile of gay mush and go, "Step on me, owl lady," which honestly just encapsulates my history with the character. I came for the MILF, I stayed for the amazing character, who is still a fucking immaculate MILF. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk, TM. Stay tuned for next time when I talk about Luz. I mean, it's been 2 Owl House videos already. The fact that it's taken me this long to talk about the fucking protagonist is kinda shameful.